Anita Borja Enriquez is Senior Vice President and Provost at the University of Guam, an entrepreneur, former corporate planning and development manager, and management consultant. She is a staunch advocate for developing economies and building social mobility and local capacity among students and residents in small island communities. Dr. Enriquez has demonstrated examples of visionary leadership and innovation as former UOG faculty and administrator. She launched the professional MBA program. As School of Business and Public Administration Dean, she helped secure over $13 million for a USDA loan for the J and ELG SBPA building and consolidated all business majors and minors to heighten academic quality and save $400,000 annually. She secured over $1.6 million from U.S. Department of Commerce EDA to establish the UOG Pacific Center for Economic Initiatives, Defense Logistics Agency to establish the Guam Procurement Technical Assistance Center, U.S. Small Business Administration to establish the Guam Veterans Business Outreach Center, and Department of the Interior Office of Insular Affairs to launch the Buy Local Guam Marketing Educational Campaign. Recently, she supported the transformation of academic and research units and led the increase of graduation rates from 27% to 41.2% within 5 years. She secured over $2 million on a USDOE grant to fund the Triton Advising Center and leveraged approximately $30 million in Higher American Rescue Plan Higher Education Emergency Relief Fund to support UOG's pivot to remote instruction and work during the COVID-19 pandemic period, providing direct student relief funding and support for remote teaching, learning, and operations. She secured university partners and $600,000 scholarship support for Taiwan-based student and faculty exchanges under UOG's Asia Pacific Studies Center and donors to establish the Study Abroad at UOG Scholarship and Internship Program for Guam diaspora students. As co-chair of the Island Wisdom Group, she founded the Inadahi Dzan Inagofli'i DEI Council and Island Sustainability Committee, which led to the launch of the Certificate in Traditional Seafaring and UOG's Canoe House. Dr. Enriquez is chair of the Guam Land Use Commission, president of Guampedia Foundation, Incorporated's board, and member of PATA Micronesia and the Pacific Islands SBDC Advisory Board. She serves as Pacific Basin Commissioner for WASC Senior College and University Commission and member of the WICHE Western Academic Leadership Forum Executive Committee. She is past president of the Rotary E-Club of Pago Bay, Guam, founding vice president of the Guam Women's Chamber of Commerce Board, and founding member of the Guam Museum Foundation Board. Dr. Enriquez received awards as US SBA 2013 Women in Business Champion, 2006 and 2012 UOG Administrator of the Year, 2011 Guam Community College Alumna of the Year, and Academy of Economics and Economic Education Distinguished Research Award. She received her Doctor of Business Administration degree in International Business Administration Marketing from Alliant International University, Master of Business Administration degree from University of Guam, and Bachelor of Science degree in Management from University of Maryland Global Campus. She is married to Noel Enriquez and has 3 children, Vanessa, Nathan, and Nicholas, and 2 beautiful granddaughters, Audrey and Sloan. And I'd also like to take this opportunity to recognize the presence of Vanessa, Henry, Audrey, and Sloan in the audience. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Anita Borja Enriquez.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your very long introduction. Half a day, everyone. I think it's important to always have context about who you're dealing with, your audience, and who's speaking. And I want to tell you a little bit about my background. I'm one of 8 children, one of 6 sisters, a first-generation college graduate, public school graduate from the GCC Vocational High School. I was in college prep, know you had to fill out an application to go to college. I had no mentors. I think counseling failed me. And so I understand the plight of first-generation students and those who are very much concerned about college affordability. I basically grew up in the private sector. I developed my work experiences within high school by virtue of going to a trade school, but also along the years. My mother was real big on, you people better work hard and go get a job. And my dad would always say, without a college degree, you're nothing in this world. So, you had, the pressures of being very productive in the workforce, but also making sure that we advance towards a college degree. So my journey is such where it took me 6 years to finish. I was a college dropout. I had a disruption in life. I got pregnant and gave birth to my beautiful daughter, Vanessa, who is sitting here, who actually used to tag along when I was a student at the University of Guam and also when I was a faculty member at the University of Guam. She used to go rollerblading, in the halls of Society for Emeritus Professors and Scholars. Retired scholars, don't tell them about that. But my journey is such where I wanted to make a difference in the classroom. And that is why I left the private sector, observing that our students didn't seem like they knew how to navigate through the workforce space. I wanted to be part of the solution. So it fell on my lap, a UOG doctoral fellowship. Of course, I didn't have money to go pursue a doctoral program, but I had the opportunity to do so in a hard-to-hire discipline, which was marketing at the College of Business and Public Administration. I enjoyed my short stint as a faculty member, was publishing. My research agenda focused on value-added partnerships and the value chain across many different sectors, published in referee journals, and also advanced, got elected as department chair, and got roped into administration too early in my career. I was the acting director of the Center for Continuing Education and Outreach Programs, and then pulled in to become the acting dean of the College of Business and Public Administration in a relatively short period of time. Thank goodness I got promoted and tenured just in time after 4 to 5 years. And so I became dean of the college and the School of Business and Public Administration for many years. That was the job where I had the most fun. And I say that because it allowed me to engage with our external stakeholders to garner support, especially through our advisory council, and to work with sponsored employers for internships. So I revamped our business internship course because I wanted to make sure that our student experience within these internship courses was optimized. I made sure that we included an internship stipend for the very first time. And so I challenged our students to identify three top choices of where they would like to gain their internship experience. So empowering them to be part of that journey. 100% of my student interns were offered jobs before they graduated. And so that was a success story. Engaging our student organization leaders to be part of the planning. I see that we have some former advisory council members in the audience who are also, are engaged with alumni, who know the kinds of participation, the importance and the value of education, and supporting that whole college affordability initiative. So as a senior vice president and provost for almost 10 years, there were a lot of different innovative initiatives that we rolled out. After our 2016 site visit with the Waseda College and University Commission, and let's turn to the next slide, we recognize that, I'm sorry, I forgot to introduce my husband. Let me do this real quick. My husband unfortunately could not join us, but I think it's very important because usually, in addition to my beautiful family here, he would be sitting here or standing up right beside me because we come as a package deal. And my husband has always been a strong advocate of developing and working and mentoring our young adults, being a former Blue and Gold officer for the U.S. Naval Academy, and eventually helping out to stand up the School of Engineering, helping to establish the student chapter of the School of Engineering, and helping to bring over $85,000 worth of scholarships for students in civil engineering and environmental science. Also to help stand up the summer STEM camp for middle school students. But he's always been a champion of working with educational institutions and also working with our youth and working with our young adults in order to help be part of that transformative process. He still mentors and serves as an advisor to many different sectors, but also especially to our graduates from the University of Guam. So I'm so proud of him, and I just wanted to introduce that. Next slide. So going back to all these innovative outputs, and I'll just leave it to the Q&A process to delve into that, but I really wanted to show you that our beautiful campus sits on a cliff with a multi-billion-dollar view of Pago Bay, okay? But our footprint in terms of what we deliver, okay, spans across our island. There is a nexus, there's a connection between what we deliver, whether it be programs, services, okay, the types of research that come from faculty and students, okay? All of these are culminated in the different ways in which we contribute to what I call the body of literature and research. And so, of course, we want it to be place-based research. We want to respect the uniqueness of our region, of island values, of island wisdom, hence the strategic initiative in the current Powerholder Strategic Plan on being recognized as a Research University Center in Island Wisdom. It's really not just faculty who are contributing to that, but students to which we are building that particular capacity. I just sat through a wonderful presentation by students in Dr. Yvette Polino's health science class, and the data, the analysis, the summary results are going to be used for decision-making processes at our very own university. Leading as a partnership university, we have built the brand equity. Years ago, decades, we were the university of last choice among graduates here. Today, we have senior professionals, medical doctors sending their children to the University of Guam. Students come from very reputable schools coming to the University of Guam. Students transferring from off-island universities, transferring to the University of Guam because there's something very special that is happening at our institution by virtue of the kinds of mentoring, the kinds of programs, the kinds of pathways that you see unfold, especially with programs that are National Science Foundation funded, National Institute of Health funded, among others. Okay. And so you see the landscape, our footprint spans beyond our immediate region, and also the partnerships that we have garnered across the different Asian countries, even down towards Australia, New Zealand, across the continental United States, and even towards Europe. So very proud of what we've done to build not only our brand equity, but institutions are coming to us asking us to partner. So we've changed the trajectory by virtue of just the incredible work that's been showcased by our institution. Next slide. Okay, this is a very academic slide, but I think at the core or the nucleus is really our purpose for being as a University of Guam. Our land grant status. We are all about delivering public value. Okay, so we think about transforming the lives of our students. We think about student success. We think about college affordability. We think about the importance of feeding into the dreams, the aspirations of our students. Why a college degree, and how that has helped them in their social as well as economic mobility. Okay, because when you help to transform our students' lives and they advance economically, they bring their families with them. So there's this whole multiplier effect in our intent. So public value is also represented in terms of the kinds of services, the extension work that is delivered through our extension faculty, working with the aquaculture industries, working with different government entities, working with NGOs, working with other industry sectors, working with residents in general, being able to deliver the types of technical reports and research publications that give insight, that give context on how to make critical decisions that impact different sectors within the fabric of our community. So the next circle really encompasses our threefold vision of ENA, to enlighten, Descubri, to discover, and setbi, to serve. And so at the core of who provides all of this, it's primarily our faculty, but the staff who make sure that they succeed. The staff who make the faculty's lives easier, and the fact that the staff who are the backbone of all of this, to make sure that there's that wraparound support administratively, technically, and in other ways. So the next circle really is, it represents the expectations of our faculty with regard to instruction, because there are different classifications of faculty at the University of Guam. We have the instructional or teaching faculty. We have the research faculty from the Marine Laboratory, from the Water and Environmental Research Institute. We have the extension faculty from the Cooperative Extension Services of the College of Natural and Applied Sciences, but they also exist in other areas such as the School of Business and Public Administration. Because when you produce a report that is translated in practical types of publications that are going to be useful for policy decisions or other types of decision-making processes, then it provides the kind of value to our various publics that make them extension types of outputs. The most outer circle, how do you sustain the enterprise? We call it the academic enterprise. And so most recently, the Board of Regents passed the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Council that has to do with inadahis and inagofli'i. Inadahi has to deal with respect, okay? It has to do with respect and compassion. Inagofli has to do with inclusivity, okay? So we think about respect, compassion, community. That's also tied into our cultural value of Inat Malik. And so using those lenses in terms of how we view our structures and how we advance student experiences and how we take care of our staff. Okay, all of those are critical. And so the important thing is, well, how are we going to sustain all of this? We see there's a lot of pressures, a lot of challenges that have been brought on by the pandemic. You know, different variables that we did not anticipate. Okay, staff salary increases, the need to raise faculty salaries, the $7 million drop in appropriation over a 5-year period from 2018 to 2023, down to $23 million. How are we going to achieve all of these different stressors? How are we going to ensure that academic excellence and the integrity of the academy is safeguarded? How are we going to ensure we take care of our students and our staff and our faculty? Okay, all of these are important. And so my commitment is employing a lot of the strengths that I bring to this position of the presidency. I'm very excited to work towards arriving at how do we make this all work. And so building the trust, examining carefully as you would any kind of enterprise, our current environmental context, taking a look internally about how we're addressing cost efficiencies, looking at the untapped levers for diversifying and building the revenue portfolio, looking at this from the context of arriving at a better business model towards sustainability and growth. Okay, so having very intimate knowledge about the University of Guam, recognizing the need for respect, compassion, and community, shared governance, transparency, okay, all of these are critical. So as we think about, next slide, the University of Guam moving forward. Power Hula Plan, there's still a lot of great stuff in the Power Hula Plan, but the pandemic period has caused us to pause. So we need to have a better understanding of our current context, our environmental situation, and as such, we need to bring more stakeholders into the conversation. So assessing where we are internally, having those critical listening sessions through a transition period, and addressing every single unit we have, among other systems that are in place. I don't, we won't get involved in the details, But I think about inadahin tiningo sadi hina now mona. Okay, so we think about respect, we think about nurturing. Tiningo really has to do with the intellectual and the professional infrastructure. Sorry, I'm using terms that really describe all of us, right? So we build capacity to feed into the intellectual and professional workforce and infrastructure. We take our students through that journey. Our staff are critical members of that ecosystem of support to make this happen, but we need to take care of you. Now, Mona, basically, that nurturing process of bringing everybody together. So together in our flotilla of canoes, I look forward to the future ahead and the ways in which you can engage in transformative process to strengthen the core of institution and allow it to prosper even further. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Enriquez. Are there any questions from the audience? I will give precedence to those that want to ask their questions. You can use the microphone on the left and the right of the stage. If none, I will go to the cards that have been given to me. Sean?
Hi, so as president, can you give an example of how you will bring the UOG community together?
Okay.
Thank you.
As a former HR professional and human resource management consultant, I used to provide a lot of training in terms of how to build the morale of organizations. Effective communications, transparency, and basically engaging members of your team and addressing them as valuable members of your team is very critical. When I first entered my current role, I sat members of my staff together, I drew out the whiteboard, the organizational chart, and I asked them, so what does it mean to be a part of a land-grant university? It took me, I think, 10 years to try to figure that out because people could not articulate that clearly. And it really all boiled down to delivering public value. And so I asked them the question, I said, okay, in this organizational chart, what is our office responsible for? So they pointed it down to just the office. And I said, you see all of these? All of the schools, the colleges, the research centers, the library, the student affairs? I said, this is my span of control. These are the areas in which I am responsible for, and you are critical members of my team to ensure that we operate effectively and efficiently, okay? So everyone's gonna get cross-trained. And so Arana's smiling because she knows what we're talking about. And I said, you're all members of this team. If I need to make my own copies, I'll make my own copies. I need to shred papers, I'll shred my own papers. I said, we are all equal partners as far as our purpose of being. But there was one time when we had a Christmas party was canceled. They said, we have no money. And I'm thinking, oh my word, we're entering the holidays. That's one of the motivators that people look forward to. And so I came up with this bright idea. So why don't we have a holiday chess and mixer? And so everybody bring their favorite appetizer to this gathering, which we did. So we had staff excited about bringing their own favorite appetizer. Okay, they wanted to show off, showcase. We had Marine Lab faculty bringing their own favorite fish Kelaguen. And we had so much food, and we just invited the entire campus. And so having a positive work environment is critical. Building the esprit de corps. In order for any organization to be successful, every member of your team needs to know that they are valued, and they need to understand where the position fits in that overall scheme of things in terms of purpose for being as a unit. And of course, as the institution, what does that represent? And so I've always been an advocate of making sure that we have a positive work environment and an advocate for communications and having sometimes those hard conversations So I hope that I'll be able to sort of expand that effort. I believe there are a number of gaps with regard to more open communications, and I'm looking forward to being able to close those gaps.
Thank you, Dr. Enriquez. If there are no questions, okay. Natalia, go ahead. You want to go to the mic at the front? So as I mentioned earlier, I will give precedence to those who want to ask their questions in person, and then I will go back to the cards once we're done with that.
Okay, thank you so much too for your speech. And I wanted to, you mentioned earlier about the rising, how difficult the pandemic has been on everyone, especially our students here, and sort of adapting. How might you address the rising costs of tuitions in the coming years?
Right, so college affordability has always been my top priority. I don't believe we should raise tuition at all, okay? Everyone's still recovering. You heard the recent story from Marie Guerrero, who chairs the Guam Hotel and Restaurant Association, about how difficult small businesses are experiencing recovery mode, and there's no way they can afford to increase the minimum wage. Our students, most of them come from low income, socioeconomic status, and they are first-generation college students. I know what it's like not to have funds to go to college. I know the struggle. I know our students want to focus on persisting towards the degree, and we want to be part of that solution to make it happen. Threatening to raise tuition, that's not the way to go. And looking for many other resources, and that is why we're looking for even more scholarship opportunities, how to provide equity across the board, so that my goal is to give every single student a scholarship and to keep tuition flat. And hopefully in the future we can roll back the tuition rate, because we see the importance of being part of students' journey to advance their livelihoods. And we have been a partner to enabling them to do that. And so if college affordability is a major barrier, shame on us. Okay, we need to do a better job to allow access and to keep tuition affordable.
Thank you so much. And I have another question. How might you attract and retain talent that would help contribute to the experience in teaching and student journey?
So we have a little over 19,000 alumni, and a number of you have been working on your doctoral degrees or currently have your terminal degrees. And so there's a whole lot of island talent to be cultivated, not just here in Guam, but also throughout the region. And so as we think about ways in which we can attract those who are already here, and the fact that they want to come to the University of Guam as alumna, you know that their commitment is there. They know the journey, they know the struggles, and because they've been out there working in their professional arenas, that they bring relevant value back into the classroom, and certainly in the type of research agendas that they intend to pursue. I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Enriquez. If there are no other questions from the audience, Lei, you want to go ahead?
Thank you very much, Dr. Enriquez. I want to re-ask a question that I heard at the end of the last session that I think was, you had a response that would be beneficial for this group. You're using a word in your presentation here that I think is very telling, transformational. My involvement with the university here under your leadership in several capacities has been transformational in my life. You mentioned the experience of students during the internship program when you were dean. I'm now an employer of one of those students who came through an internship to the USO that has now graduated to a point that is a high-level manager, has received some of the greatest awards in the USO, so I'm an employer. I was a former council member for 20 years. I'm the parent representing here today an alumnus status of a student who's gone on to now teach in a country abroad and a former adjunct faculty member, so feel like I have a broad range to ask this. So if I were a student here today, I would want to know, with you as president, how would my life be transformed? And that, I think you've answered that in several ways. A scholarship, you know, for everyone focusing on finance is certainly transformational. You talked about getting students involved in decision making. But a question I heard was, how is Dr. Enriquez as provost or senior vice president different from Dr. Enriquez as president?
Right.
And your answer to that, I think, was transformational. So
Right. So having navigate from a dean position where I was allowed to be all I can be and work with external stakeholders and have a lot of fun with different ways in which we can generate revenue, write grants, involve faculty, involve students, and so forth, to a position of provost, senior vice president, where my span of control is working with the different academic deans, associate deans, research center directors, student affairs, and so forth. I have become the UOG 411 and the UOG 911. And so I am also the chief fire extinguisher. And so I feel sometimes that I wear 3 different major hats in which there isn't enough time, so I have to work super hard to keep up. And so I expect, in working with my administrative team, that that they are basically managing their respective areas effectively. And so my job is to make sure that they have the resources that they need in order to be successful within their respective units. And so the difference between a provost and the president is the face of the institution. The president works with external stakeholders. The president builds trust. The president builds resources. The president is out there cultivating relationships with island leaders, cultivating relationships with past and prospective donors, and helping to raise the resources, not only at the Endowment Foundation, but also internally at the University of Guam. Okay? So positive relationship building is critical, a critical part of that. My job keeps me internal. The presidency's role is external, but also understanding what that narrative ought to be, so that members of our publics trust what we are doing is really exemplifying the delivery of public value for them. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Dr. Enriquez. Any other questions from the audience? If not, I'm going to the stack of cards. Okay. Having seen none, the question from the audience is, as we have heard in the media, our 22% raise will only be funded by the government of Guam for classified employees, with a stipulation that tuition rates cannot be increased. Madam SVPP, if we can't raise tuition or cut expenses to afford raises for all, what are your ideas for the university to generate additional income or a whole new revenue stream, so that all employees, such as non-classified, contract, or PTE workers, get what is due to them?
Thank you. So we have to make some bold decisions, right? But there are 3 major levers that within a renewed business model that need to be taken into consideration. The first is expanding our revenue portfolio. And so you cannot just rely primarily on local appropriations and tuition. You cannot place the burden back on students because we can't seem to manage cost efficiencies, and only because we haven't been robust in terms of diversifying and building new revenue flows. I recognize the challenges of how do we balance getting the 22%, not just for our classified employees, but also for the others who are not in that classification, who are also staff members, you know, their colleagues or your colleagues. And how do we make sure that the faculty salaries are finally phased in terms of adjustment, because they haven't been increased since, I think 2000, it's been 20 years. Okay, how do we build equity in this equation? And how do we ensure that we sustain ourselves? So taking a look internally, having better context of what our finances look like, ensuring that we've actually optimized the different sub-levers within our revenues, within our funds, and looking at ways in which we can balance that with cost efficiencies across many different areas, and also engaging in one important area that's still, you know, working in partnership with the Endowment Foundation and engaging in a robust capital campaign. And so that's an exciting endeavor that I look forward to, and we're ready to rock and roll on that. So I hope that answers that particular question.
Thank you. The next question from the audience is, what are your top 3 priorities and vision for the university?
Yes. Okay, so people ask me, what's your vision? I turn around and say, what's your vision because this has to be a shared vision. But academic excellence is always going to be a priority theme, because academic excellence transfers to the quality of the programming and experiences of our students, the quality and the brand recognition of the work that the faculty deliver with regard to instruction, with regard to their teaching, their research output, the kinds of value that they are able to deliver through their extension work, through their service, right? So I think about that. And so, I'm sorry, what's the other part of the question?
The other part of the question was, what are your top 3 priorities and
Yes.
vision for the university?
So going back to the shared vision, we have to go through a process. Academic excellence, student success, but college affordability, college access folded into student experience, student success. And student success, we expand that definition. It's not just retention, it's not just graduation, but it's all about what is the ultimate value after graduation that our students experience, whether it be going off to graduate school or whether it's entering their respective career pathways, so that ultimately they're able to advance based on their intended interests. And the third priority really has to do with a model of sustainability and growth, because this is all encompassing. How do we preserve the academy despite the perceived value, dwindling value of a college education? How do we sustain our academy or our university with these dwindling local appropriations? Okay? So it's going to require a new business model of how we strengthen our institutions so we can allow for all of these additional gaps to be closed and to allow the university to thrive even further, so that we can move forward into another millennia and we can hold our heads with pride that we are part of this amazing institution we call the University of Guam.
Thank you. And the next question is, what is your overall perspective on staff development, like tuition assistance support and other staff-related concerns such as morale, work assignments, positions, work equity, and pay?
Yeah. So I've been an advocate of ongoing professional development as a former corporate training manager and former training consultant that needs change, right? And our staff are critical to the success of every single unit. And so having an opportunity to meet on a regular basis with leaders of our staff council, that's been missing, right, with the president, and trying to find a way to close these gaps. Staff development's one, tuition assistance is another, okay? There are low-hanging fruit. Working with administrators to ensure that there's a better system in place to take care of our staff. And with regard to morale, I mean, I'm a big proponent of building a positive work environment within our institution. So I look forward to working with the Human Resources Office and with all of our administrators and getting input from our staff through the Staff Council and making sure that what we deliver is based on input that is relevant so that we close all these respective gaps. So I hope that answers your question.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, what is your position on shared governance? Share a challenge that you had with shared governance, and how did you resolve it?
So shared governance has to do with engaging your key stakeholders in decisions that have to be made that relate to policy and maybe relate to dissemination or distribution of funds. And I think having these regular monthly conversations with the key with the shared governance groups. Examples are you have the Staff Council, you've got Student Government Association, we have the Faculty Union, the Faculty Senate, and the Administrative Council. And so those regular conversations, understanding, communicating, making sure that you have current context about the issues and basically working them through. You know, the University of Guam has a faculty union. I've been part of the negotiations. And so, of course, the faculty union, the board faculty union agreement is really a contract between the institution, its board, to the faculty and the responsibilities thereof that affect their working conditions, their compensation, right? And other factors surrounding faculty. And of course, there's a lot of conversation, there may be discourse that exists in part of that process of negotiation, but at the same time, we employ what we call the interest-based bargaining to make sure that there are shared interests in these conversations so that as we work towards trying to mitigate issues, that it's based on, you know, intensive conversations that are going to result in basically addressing, resolving, and making sure that people are left satisfied with the outcome. And so, yeah, is there a third part to that question?
No, that was it.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, what is your stance on remote work?
Ooh, I like remote working. So the pandemic period gave me that long overdue sabbatical that I never had, okay? And of course, it created a major disruption in our lives, but it showed us how we can employ technology to carry out our work. Now, there are instances where it's difficult to engage in fully remote work, particularly if your presence is required. And it could be in entertaining students during office hours because our students are very diverse groups. Some of them may be inhibited by being or not be as communicative or, you know, responsive when they're on a Zoom call or when they're on the phone, but actually prefer that in-person, face-to-face experience. The same goes with advisement. The same goes with trying to resolve issues. With regard to online learning, okay, we want to make sure that students are given an option whether or not they want to participate in that. So it's important that we have options for that in-person experience. There are staff who never want to come on campus and are happy to work in their corner of the world, in their home, okay? But the reality is such is that I need to be on campus. However, if you're sick and you're like, gosh, I have a really bad migraine, but I really need to get this stuff done. I've seen many examples where administrators have made accommodations. Okay, Jonas, you can work from home because I know you're meeting this deadline. Or, gosh, I feel sick, I know I'm contagious, I'm going to work remotely, okay? So the business at hand continues. And I hope that there's enough compassion when our students are dealing with their professors where if you're sick and, oh gosh, I can't come to class, but is there an opportunity for me to make up through some hybrid format? And so it's a new world, ladies and gentlemen. We have AI at our doorstep. We're going to explore how AI could be a value-added solution towards improving upon the student experience. Not for plagiarism, but, you know, improving upon the student experience. Sorry. Yeah, we have to look out for faculty as well. But, yeah, so we're excited about how technology has helped to transform and give us access to new ways of doing things. So remote work, it really depends on the scope of your job and whether or not you have to be physically present and if there's a way to accommodate. I mean, I've used flex work time long before it was commonplace in making accommodation for a member of my staff, okay? And so I think accommodation is central to that decision and seeing how there is an opportunity to provide the latitude that you need in order to carry out your work. I know it sounds a bit ambiguous, but, you know, it just depends on the situation and certainly the expectations, especially of our students. Okay.
Thank you. The next question is, how is your relationship with the legislature going to help with the funding that we need?
So I've got a lot of cell phone numbers in my directory and my, on hand. And so as one who has no problems meeting one-on-one with our island leaders and employing relationship building and relationship maintenance competencies in this process. It's very important. How to articulate the message, how to ensure that we also have something to offer at the table and we're not always asking. Okay, we do so many amazing things at this university. How are we going to be part of the solution, leveraging a lot of what we produce as an academic enterprise to help them in their respective committees in which they either serve as oversight chair or they are members of. And so, I believe that our island leaders truly value our institution, but at the same time, there needs to be some reciprocity with regard to our fiduciary and fiscal overall performance, and that we've got skin in the game. So having those one-on-one and keeping them posted on where we are and how we're able to contribute public value is going to be important. So, and of course, being able to fully understand, well, what's the holdback, What is their hesitancy about approving? What is it that we're not doing, okay? Or what is it that we're doing that perhaps could be a barrier towards achieving the end goal of getting our full appropriation? So I hope that answers that question.
Okay, thank you very much. Next question is, as president, how big of a role would technology play in moving the university forward?
Yeah. It's a major role. Okay, there are a lot of opportunities present, with regard to technological advancements and the types of activities that are going on, whether it be through new industries or a defense buildup and so forth. And so our employers are demanding more currency among our graduates. And we see how technology has helped us to streamline our work processes and make our jobs easier. And so we've already unveiled a number of these types of technology enhanced or innovative processes that help us to do our jobs better and more expediently. We see that in terms of students being able to gain access to particular types of resources and have access to particular individuals, being able to register online, being able to access your transcripts and so forth. And so with AI at our front doorstep, we need to basically get caught up with that and include our students in that conversation because they're always ahead of the game. Yeah, so we're excited about how we can take it forward, but we certainly need to have more conversations and bring folks who are more mature in their adoption of new technologies, such as our partners, whether they be former CIOs or others who are already ahead of the curve, who are actually alumni of the University of Guam, and those out in industry who can basically give more insight on how we can do it better.
Okay, thank you. And I'm going to pass along a note before I ask the last question. Due to time constraints, this will be the last question. But before we break today, I want everyone to know that there will be a separate 90-minute session, Q&A with Dr. Enriquez, scheduled for next week, Friday, 8:45 a.m. in the Fine Arts Theater. So if you did not get to ask your question or your question was not read, please take the opportunity to join that session next week, Friday. And the last question is, what are your thoughts on on-site daycare for staff's children and mental health services offered for staff? So we just had that recent conversation, not about daycare, but about the merging our wellness and mental health support services that are accessible not only to our students, but also to our staff. Okay, it's just a matter of making sure that staff know that these services are available. I want to expand that footprint because it's important. Many of our
many of our members of our community, including our students, they may be experiencing depression, anxiety. I mean, COVID has introduced all of those different stressors. Even administrators, faculty go through those. So we need to provide those support systems. We need to expand on what we currently have, and we're going to accelerate those particular offerings. With regard to an on-site daycare, we used to have one. And so I think it's just going to take a business plan or a feasibility study on where we're going to have this. Is it going to be sustainable? Because remember, it has to be a sustainable type of outfit. Or let's just outsource that, okay? And yeah, I say where we can outsource, where it can be more affordable for the institution, let's take advantage of that. And so I challenge students who are looking for capstone projects to turn this into a capstone project to examine the efficacy of being able to have an on-site daycare. And of course, that would be wonderful.
Dr. Enriquez, the intern I mentioned that came from UOG that is now an employee, also is an entrepreneur that runs a daycare on the side. Maybe UOG can talk to.
Of course, of course. Right, right, absolutely. We can't be everything to everyone, but we can certainly partner or outsource to help bring that particular service to complement the needs and the offerings of the University of Guam. Thank you for that question. That was a very, very important question. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. That concludes your presentation with Dr. Enriquez. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you for your time. Thank you.